Well, you did a ladder test for your powder charge, and now it's time to move on to that seating depth. Hi everyone, it's the Four-Gun Guy. And today I want to talk about seating depth and whether it really makes that big of a difference or not. So if you're ready to go, let's get to it. I want to start by kind of saying that when you first get into this sport, and especially when you first get into reloading, you will get obsessed with numbers and you will become obsessed with accuracy, and you'll become obsessed with, is everything exactly the way it should be? And I've been doing this now for 6 years. And I can tell you that there comes a point that you start to say, that's good enough. And I'm going to do a video with a good buddy of mine, Jose Garza, and we're going to talk about what's good enough. But for this video, I want to focus on the concept of seating depth. So if you remember, I just did a video probably about a month ago or so, a month and a half ago, on powder charge. And I said, I want to go up a little bit in velocity because I had played around with, as I load 125 rounds for a match, sometimes I'll go, hey, let's add a few grains or a few tenths of grains, and let's see what happens here. And I played around with a little bit. I thought I found something. And so I did that video, and I did find something. I usually load my 6mm BRA with 28.4 grains of H4895, but I found that 29.3 grains got me a little more consistency. Now right now you're gonna go, you were just telling us that you don't need to chase all that stuff. Yeah, I know, but sometimes it's just fun to mess around with this stuff. So I saw that and I thought, okay, let's do that. Let's look at different powder charges, and that's what that previous video was about. Go check it out. And what you'll find was that at those certain powder loads, I think I have that target somewhere in here, but anyway, certain powder loads, things looked really good. So then I thought, okay, if I do want to go to 29.3, let's kind of reboot our seating depth and make sure that for my 107 grain SMK Sierra Match Kings, let's revisit seating depth and make sure that what we think is right is going to be right. Hence this video. Here are the results. I'm going to put these up here. I went to some extremes, and I did things a little differently than you would think you would do for seating depth tests. So let's talk about what we've been told. If you're going to do a seating depth test, do your research, find out the bullet you're using, go out, do some research, and then what you do is you go seated at X plus 3,000ths, X plus 6,000ths, X plus 9,000ths, and so forth. And you're going to do about a 6-string number of loads there, 5 to 10 rounds per seating depth. But as you start getting into the numbers, as I said at the very beginning, you're going to start to realize that every 100 rounds, your lands erode about 3,000th of an inch. Well, that's just one of the steps you were checking your seating depth on. So after 100 rounds, that depth isn't even valid anymore. This is just the way I look at it. So I thought to myself, I'm going to do things a little differently here. I know the Sierra Match King likes somewhere between 20,000ths and 40,000ths off the lands. I've found that out because I've shot probably 4,000 rounds with SK, or with, I keep saying SK Match because I have my 22 rifle, or I did another video. with SMKs. So I kind of know that bullet. So here's what I did. I said, let's go kind of wacky here. Let's do a 20 thousandths off the lands. Let's do a 30 thousandths off the lands, which is, 10 thousandths of an inch. Let's do a 50 thousandths off the lands. And then let's do two kind of, quote, extremes for this. Let's do 80 thousandths off the lands, and let's do nothing off the lands. In other words, we are just touching the lands, or very close to touching the lands. And I thought, let's just do this and see what we come out with. Here's what we came out with. I'm going to put this up right next to me here on the screen. Every one of these groups, pretty darn good groups, right? I mean, these are really good groups. There's nothing wrong with any of them. You can see that the 20 thousandths of an inch is indeed, in my opinion, the way to go here. Now, what I want to show here, though, is if you look at the numbers of these groups, start to look at the SDs and the ESs. The SDs and ESs for the touching the lands group, 3, 9, 6, and 11, respectively. The 20 thousandths actually had one of the worst SDs and one of the worst extreme spreads, but it was the tightest group of this bunch. Then the 30 thousandths, 3.5 SD, 10.9 ES, 40, the 50 thousandths, that should be 50, 7.1 SD, 21.9 ES, so almost identical to the 20 thousandths. And then the 80 thousandths off the lands, 6 SD and 20 thousandths ES. The groups were half MOA, quarter-ish or a third-ish MOA, a little more than half, half, and half. Now, I'm just going to cut to the chase and tell you that it's 20 thousandths off the lands, and that's what I'm going with. And I'll tell you why. Not only because of that grouping, but because of this grouping. I just did another video on 22 long rifle ammunition, and I was out there with this new load for my centerfire rifle, the 29.3 grains of 48.95 and 20 thousandths off the lands. And yeah, I just had this. There's a 4-shot group, but this is a really good group. I'll put this up there too. This is a really good group, half MOA. You know what? I will take that. When guys say I put 3 in the same hole, and I actually said that on the 22 video because I did, but I had 10 shots. A few of them were in the same hole, but then it's a group. I always kind of chuckle because I'm like, well, shoot 10 shots and let's see if you can get 10 rounds in one hole. You can't do it. So I guess my whole point here, guys, is take all of this with a grain of salt. Find something that's going to work for you and then stick with it. And don't worry about if lands are eroding or this or that. When these groups start to open up, here's the way I'm looking at this. Look, this is 20 thousandths off the lands. This is 30 thousandths off the lands. This is about 300 to 400 rounds down the barrel. Fitz is 50 thousandths off the lands. And that group is actually almost better, or probably is a little better than the 20 thousandths group. And then the 80 thousandths is still within a 1 MOA group, right? So my whole point is, even as this is proof that when people like Eric Cortina say, don't chase the lands, just watch your groups. To me, I have a heck of a long way to go before I'm sitting at a 1 MOA or a 1.2 MOA group that I have to say, oh, something's not right. By that time, my barrel's already shot out. I'm getting a new barrel. So why am I even worrying about this, right? Find the powder charge, find the seating depth, and go with it. And yeah, that's really all I had here. Is I've got the new load, the new seating depth. I'm very happy with it. Oh, and the range I was at was my buddy Larry's. And when I got this 100 yards, I'm like, that's nice. 500 yards, that target, impact. 640 yards, I think he has some targets out there, impact, small targets. Then we went out to 800 or 700, 750, 800, and I went to 900 yards impacts. So look, really happy. Glad I found it. Glad I did a little bit of the research. This whole experiment probably cost me 100 rounds. That's fine. That's all right. I got what I wanted out of it. And now I don't touch a thing, right? My reloading is set. My dies are set. Everything is set. And now I can just run rounds through my reloading process and be ready for the next match. Well, hey everyone, thanks for watching this one. It was a lot longer than this before, and I thought, let's just kind of cut this thing down. So I appreciate your watching, comments, the likes, the subs. Thanks again, and until next time, don't sweat the small stuff and shoot straight.